Pandemonium Reigns.
Pandemonium Reigns podcast. What is up? Well, here we are in the back end of Gator Hater Week. The nightmare of all nightmare fuels for Vols fans over the last roughly 20 years. I mean, you know, just a quick aside before I really get into previewing the game a little bit. If you don't have nightmares still about the way the game was lost in 06, about the way the game was lost before their run when, the ball was in and out of the receiver's hands immediately in the end zone and ruled a touchdown for the Gators, then, one hand, you might be young, you might be lucky and not have those core nightmares. Other hand, you might be like me and you might dread this game, like 364 days out of every year. All that aside, here we are. The Vols are 15 to 16 point favorites, and again, terrifying things that bring terror and nightmare fuel, especially if you're like me, trying to recover from just the biggest WTH performance of probably the Heupel era, and another big one, another big performance in that category was last year in Gainesville. So all the good stuff, all the dread, all the anxiety, it lines back up, whether you're 15, 16 point favorites or not, whether all indications, especially the indications prior to last Saturday were Vols' big win coming against the Gators, it doesn't matter. It goes out the window, and it just, you throw it out the window, you light it on fire, you pour gas on that fire when you are coming off a performance like that. Again, I'm going to stick with this in Gainesville Northwest, which is what that was on Saturday. But here we are. We can't dance around it anymore. We can't avoid it. Saturday is coming. Saturday at 7 p.m. is coming. Checkered kneeling under the lights. We don't usually get this set up for Florida. Usually it was, even in the midst of a heck of the run that Florida's kind of still on against Tennessee. It's not ended because of 2016 and 2022 just yet. I think the only way you end that is to not go and run to match theirs. That would be asking too much probably, but this game was the CBS 3:30, and you'd have Danielson driving you crazy, especially me, and then you'd have Lundquist and co in the real heat of the terror stretch for this series, doing the rest. And we know all the players that have come through Florida and have given Tennessee nightmares. And again, it was usually taking place at 3:30 on CBS. But here we are, checker kneeling under the lights. I think the last time that happened, not to add any more battered ball fuel, was Ole Miss in 2021, where we actually had a game kick off under the lights with kneeling checkered and just all the sauce. I think it's been that long since we had that setup, because we don't checker kneeling all the time. We usually, name it before the season or before the schedule's fully decided, all those things. We lay this out, and that's what we're doing. We're looking to create that environment again, and I just hope that if anyone's groggy, if anyone's still feeling Saturday, it's only the fans, and that all the whispers, all the indicators coming out of practice after a loss that Tennessee took are true, and that Tennessee shows up angry, flying around, wrecking shop, wrecking everything for the Gators from the opening kick. I mean, it's probably going to be a touchback, but go do something, because you have to respond coming off of what you're coming off of. If you can't tell, I'm uneasy. I'm uneasy about this game. I'm uneasy about being a favorite of that much. I don't care about any of the metrics or the stats or the analytics because of this series. And also on a more micro scale, let's look at it two ways. Florida against the run. This year they've been horrific against the run. I mean, even Mississippi State, in a game that they were down early, that they were trying to claw their way back into, they even ran the ball against Florida, right? Everyone's ran on Florida. It's happened. It was a bona fide weakness. And then Saturday happens, and, I don't think UCF is that great of a program. I don't think Gus Malzahn's that great of a coach, if he's even a great coach. and they can't run the ball. Their offensive line looks like poo-poo, and the offense goes out the window. They can't run the ball. Then flip it to our side of the Saturday's events. Arkansas can't defend the pass. Arkansas has been turning the ball over like crazy. All the trends that were going against Arkansas up until the game kicked off in Fayetteville, and Tennessee couldn't protect Nico to give time to exploit anything in Arkansas's pass defense. They had the recipe, and Tennessee didn't adapt or go to the 12 personnel look that had worked against other, 3-down line or odd front situations. That they didn't do that. So Tennessee wasn't able to exploit those things against Arkansas, wasn't able to force turnovers, which was not good, and all those things happened, and those games played out the way they did, with Florida winning as a home underdog against UCF, which, again, I'm obviously selling a little bit on UCF here. I'm not blown away by that. That's a game that Florida should win, favorite, underdog. Doesn't matter. Florida should win that game, and the only thing is that we don't know what Florida is other than inconsistent. And then again, Tennessee doing what they did in Fayetteville, nothing makes me feel good. Nothing gives me a good read. I'm asking for the energy, for the volume dial, for the excitement to be at 11 plus come kickoff. I guess I'm glad that this game's a 7 p.m. deal, because you'll get the very best of dealing. You'll get fans that have tailgated for 12 hours leading up to this thing. I mean, I've been to 3 Tennessee Florida games in my time, and tailgated for one of those, and it was one of the best, most fun days ever. I mean, so you're going to have that boiling up to Saturday night, and a lot of people are not going to be thinking about Arkansas the week before. They're going to be thinking about ending the Gators and potentially ending Billy Napier, if Tennessee could find a way to do what we've talked about all along, and really all summer long, but bottle up from Miami murdering Florida at home till now. And obviously Florida's on a 2-game win streak, and that is what it is. But, a chance to end Billy Napier, if you do what you should be capable of doing, which is building off the offense that Heupel's had at Tennessee, getting back to it, obviously Saturday, whatever means necessary. I don't care if you run 14 trick plays. I don't care if you possess the ball for 15 minutes of the 60, if it's a regulation decision. I don't care. Whatever it takes. How does Tennessee get back to the offense that we've gone accustomed to? All those things, Dan and I were begging for the tempo. I'm not understanding personally how it's vanished. If the tempo's been sacrificed to help your defense, I think you finally now have the depth to rotate the bodies. I don't care if you're rotating 4 to 6 linebackers. I don't care if you're rotating, an entire shift of secondary players. We know the depth situation at the defensive line level. So do it by any means necessary. Again, I don't care if the plays are being drawn up from Heupel's microphone to Nico's earpiece. I don't care what it takes. The offense has to get back. I think the primary recipe in that is through the tempo. While I'm on the offense real quick, I want to touch on 2 things at least. The injury report is one of them, and I'll get to Florida's side of this in a moment. Again, going to start with Tennessee here, because there's a couple things that really get me on this. Brew, Squirrel, and Dante Thornton. Brew and Squirrel listed as probable. That could mean that, they're going to start. That could mean that we won't see them to the bowl season. We know how this goes, especially in Knoxville. Not really criticizing it. It just is what it is. And again, a position where we think we've got depth to bring guys in and out, to do what we need to do to make plays. So Brew, Squirrel listed as probable. Dante Thornton listed as questionable. I mean, Dante Thornton was in until the very last moment of that game. I don't recall or know, and I guess that's part of it. When you see Squirrel, I mean, just being completely honest, I thought Squirrel broke his collarbone on the play where he kind of got mashed into the ground. He's obviously not been his whole typical self, which is probably a perfect storm of the tempo being down, the protection being horrific, and like I talked about in the post-Arkansas episode, was the route tree being what it is. I mean, it is not the quick game anymore. It is not nearly as many vertical shots, and he had a great chance at one if Nico could have been a little bit more accurate with that ball on Saturday night. Squirrels had a tough time getting going. I don't think Saturday, is a Squirrel game opportunity. I do think it's a Brew McCoy and a Dante Thornton opportunity, though, because he's made us look. If Dante Thornton has not made you forget about wanting more from him in 2022 yet, then tell me what he needs to do. And don't say he needs to be Jalen Hyatt 2022, because until further notice, that's going to be it was already a special category for a special player, quarterback and receiver, offensive line as well. But that's getting to be like in the unattainable section of things rather than anything you could ever expect anyone to do anytime soon, because Hyatt was terrific. Hooker was so accurate and was willing to take hits and throw. And I'm not saying Nico's unwilling, but he does need to me, put the ball in the air a lot more, last play notwithstanding, in Arkansas. But again, Thornton has made me forget about all those feelings of wanting him to bring the ball in when it's thrown his way, wanting him to get separation. He's done all those things for me. I mean, Thornton is earning a lot of that recognition that he garnered in the offseason for 2023. So really hope that he's able. Brew, I think it's a hand, I think it's a finger, or fingers injury. I hope he's okay, because his mentality, his physicality, like Dan asked for, I want to see him trucking people. I want to see him get going. And again, I don't care if it's a screen, I don't care if it's a hitch, I don't care if it's a skinny post. Get Brew going. Make defenders, again, make that business decision of, oh crap, that's a big dude moving as fast as we've seen him move in college. And also, let's acknowledge the fact that Brew has hurt Florida 2 years running. Long touchdown down the left sideline last year, I believe. And again, 2022, pushed for 100 yards in that game receiving. Need him to do those things. Need this to be a Brew McCoy game. And again, I think a Dante Thornton game. Chris Brazel, I'm not saying he's been I'm not going to say he's been a disappointment yet, but I'm more so sticking with, I don't understand our rotations. I don't understand the usage, the route tree, all those things. Somebody's got to break out in a game like this. It could be a Mike Matthews moment. It certainly could be a Chaz Nimrod moment, because every time he steps on the field, he gets targets. He's one that is coming across the middle, and usually if it comes his way, it's not going to hit the ground if it's an accurate ball. He's been reliable. I think he's got sneaky speed, if not outright really good speed. And all those are things that I think are going to be needed, even if this is a game that you expect to win. Even if this is a game where Vegas has got you by 15, which feels like such a trappy spot, the more and more I think about it as we go. I believe, the last thing for me on this injury report deal is what happened to Bryson Eason late in that game. His injury, the way he went down looked really bad, really uncomfortable, and he's not even on this report. To clarify, Jordan Thomas tore his ACL in fall practice. We know he's out for the year. He's on the report as out. Edwin Spillman is out, which I don't know what happened there either. But how is Bryson Eason not on this injury report? I don't understand that. Not a great development if he does miss any time, because he's been very valuable. He's got a great motor, yet again. A lot of these guys on the defensive line do. That's part of what makes them as dangerous and as great as they are. So we're going to need Bryson Eason on Saturday. We're certainly going to need him as we go forward from here. But I don't, and it's a good thing that he's not listed as out, or again, probable could mean he's probable to play in 2026 or something with the way Heupel answers these things. But going to need him. Hope he's good to go. Looked like a really uncomfortable situation when he kind of pinned his lower part of his leg and landed on it. Maybe someone else landed on him. It just did not look fun. But again, I think he was back in the game at the end. I didn't get it because it looked painful. I don't think it was one of our fake injuries by any means, because it looked really uncomfortable. And rooting for him. He's been such a great program guy. Need him is another major factor there. Real quick, because I talked about, as I've continued to talk about the receivers, the routes, the usage, all these things. I want to talk about one of Florida's best weapons, Eugene Wilson. Hurt Tennessee, I believe, is a true freshman last year in Gainesville. He's one of, as their receivers go, they've made it work with Badger. They've made it work with Dyke this year. And again, it's not like they're the most explosive version of themselves or in the last even, down years that they've had. They're not themselves. But Eugene Wilson is a legitimate bona fide weapon. Again, hurt Tennessee last year. I think he's just a sophomore. he's also not on their injury report. That means again, kind of by the rules, should mean he's playing Saturday. Maybe these guys that are probable, questionable, that we, like in the Bryson Easton case, thought he'd be on the list. He's not. Maybe that means they suit up, they go through warm-ups. Sorry, coach, not willing or ready to give it a go. That could happen, but I expect Eugene Wilson to play because, again, he's not on the list. And Florida's got quite a longer list of players than Tennessee's got that are, for sure, they've got 8 to 10 guys here that are out, and they've got 5 guys that are listed as questionable, which is, again, nothing kind of sets up well for Florida in this game. The only thing that sets up well for Florida is how Tennessee played on Saturday. Nothing else really sets up well for Florida other than Saturday and then the extended history of this series. But Eugene Wilson's a guy that changes things for Florida because, again, if they're getting Badger to work out at receiver, if they're getting Dyke to make plays at receiver, that puts them in the realm of potentially having 3 weapons that can really hurt you, And the way they did it last year was, like Dan talked about, like we've all, again, had nightmares about for, over a year now. Nickel and dime, we'll take 3, 4, 5, 6 yards at a time. We're going to take 7 to 8 minutes off the clock, no matter, anytime we possess the ball. All those things, and it's amplified now with the clock not stopping on first downs, yada, yada. I'm not going back to it, but it's all amplified now with the more NFL-style rules that are in place. But Eugene Wilson, just a weapon for Florida to toss at Tennessee. We also know, just kind of while we're on their offense, we also know that it's going to be like every 2 series goes to Mertz. Every series after that goes to Lagway, 2-1, 2-1, 2-1. I've heard Gators guys complain about the way they do it. A 2-quarterback system never works for me. It is never something I want to see my school do for under any circumstances. If you want to throw a wildcat in there as a play option here and there, if think back to the latter Pruitt days when you'd have Juwan Jennings in as kind of a wildcat guy or whatever. That's fine. That falls for me more in the trick play or the gimmick or whatever category than 2 quarterbacks, obviously. But never going to be a fan of a 2-quarterback system. Florida's done weird things at quarterback before. Again, just against Tennessee, we think about all the backups that have played against Tennessee in this series and have hurt us. So I'm not saying that it can't work or that it's going to be the thing that is too much for Florida to overcome on Saturday. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is just expect 2 for Mertz, 1 for Lagway, rinse, repeat, play on. And again, one thing I have heard Florida guys complain about is kind of the usage that the times in which they let Lagway run. Now, he's a guy that's only taken like 2 or 3 sacks on the year. Look, he's a monster of a dude. 240 pounds, 6'3", obviously a freshman, obviously a highly regarded freshman. He is a highly regarded freshman. He's going to be a great player in college, especially, again, with that size, with the ability to throw the ball a mile, and that 239 pounds, just, my gosh, that's an unreal frame to come in with. He's only going to get bigger, faster, and stronger for the foreseeable future. But, the complaints are some of the times in which they do run him. I was saying a moment ago before I kind of got into his build that he's only ran for, I think it was 49 yards. This is great content. Yeah, 19 attempts, 49 yards. He's only taken 3 sacks. 2 sacks, but only 49 rush yards on the season. Do not let him come in and be Singleton or again, don't let him come in and do what Arkansas did with the mobile quarterback with Taylor Green, with Singleton there at the end, the latter part of the game. You've got to keep him boxed in. All the same rules apply. The same rules apply for Mertz because that's part of his game as well. He can move. He's not going to rush for 100 yards in a game. He's not going to do anything like that. But he can absolutely give himself different windows, different platforms to throw off of because, again, he does have that ability. He's got all the experience in the world because he's like a 19th-year senior. He's played in the 2 best conferences in the sport. Just for example, Mertz has ran for 45 this year. So when you combine the 2, they're under 100 yards. So that means they don't need to really be above 10 to 20 yards combined on the game. They need to be boxed in. Everything needs to be kept line of scrimmage and behind from our defensive perspective when you consider that these dudes have not even combined to break 100 yards rushing this year. And when you also combine them, they've taken, again, that's where I was getting confused a moment ago. Mertz has taken 3 sacks. Lagway's taken 2. So they've not given up a lot of sacks, but, I don't put much on that because Tennessee's not giving up many sacks either, and this offensive line has not done what it's supposed to do. So I'm not building anything really off of that. It's still the Montrell Johnson show in the rushing department for Florida. We know that ETN's in Athens and is probably being influenced negatively by the behavior and the discipline and lack thereof in Athens right now. But, it's the Montrell Johnson show, 58 for 288, an even 5 yards per carry on the year, 4 touchdowns. And again, in Eugene Wilson's absence, it's been Shamir Dyke, it's been Elijah Badger. And again, now they potentially get Eugene Wilson back. And that's just something else that Tennessee's going to have to keep in front of them. I think they, going into what I'd like to see a little bit more again, obviously I'm begging for tempo. I'm begging for signs of life. I don't need 55 points plus from Tennessee on Saturday. And I don't think you by any means need that to beat this Florida team. What I need is signs of life. I need, again, if it's a 0-yard play, if it's a positive play, if it's a 45-yard play, I don't care. Get the tempo cranked up. Make Florida contend with that. We did that, and we've done it all throughout the Heupel era up until really odd points in time when it seems like you really need to do it. Bring that back. What I would really like to see as well is some of the same things we asked for, Dan and I, especially Dan, leading into Arkansas. Be aggressive. Show different looks defensively. Don't just sit back and, get caught up in your same old schemes and have dinky-dunky plays coming across the middle, confusing your linebackers. And look, that was already a concern from last year in the way that Florida schemed us to death. Arkansas did it to an extent, and I'm not going back and retroactively asking for more from the defense from last Saturday. I'm just saying you better contain Florida. You better not let them do the dinky-dunky things. Even if they possess the ball for 45 minutes of this game, don't let it result in 7 points, 6 points. Keep them to field goals. Keep them to long field goals. They've only attempted like 5 field goals on the year, so and I know it's not like Arkansas's kicking game where that was supposed to be a weakness, and we did see them miss a kick and the kicker got injured doing it. It was a horrible situation, but test their kicking game, test this offensive line, because it's also not a vintage Florida offensive line. It's not a great offensive line by any means. It's serviceable. It's probably better than yours is playing right now. Put them through the fire on Saturday. Bring it from every angle. Have Pierce making Mertz, making Lagway see ghosts, doing to those guys, and you have to say both because of what they do. Doing to those guys what Arkansas did to Nico early on Saturday night a week ago. Making them see ghosts, continuing to be fierce, strong in the run game, especially defensively because you've been really good at that. This is not a Florida team that's great on third down. Get them into 3rd and 5+. Make it tough. Do not give it situations where they can just kind of misdirection you and fall for a yard or 3 here and there when they need it to keep the ball moving, because that was just kind of the theme of the game last year. They kept themselves in the most desirable, manageable situations last year, especially in that first half. I know it was kind of a mess for both teams in the second half a bit, but obviously they did more than enough to win the game, and all things notwithstanding, they came out of there and did what they do in the series. So prevent that at all costs. Again, show me signs of life offensively. That's what I need to see. All right, had to reset just a little bit because, all of the nightmare sauce and the nightmare fuel that I led with, all the where Florida stands, what they do, etc. Just got me going, got me ranting, had to do a bit of a reset. I've laid out what I want to see Tennessee do. Give me the signs of life. Give me the tempo. Give me the run game. If there's anyone I trust on Saturday, it's Dylan Sampson. The question, of course, will be, can we create the gaps for him to get through? Can we create the avenues for him to get his usual, 80 to, his range would be like 75 to 150 yards. Literally, that's what he's been good for. Will it be possible for Tennessee to rotate guys on Saturday? Because I do think it would not be ideal for him to come off the workhorse load that you gave him in Fayetteville. I don't think you want to do that time and time again, especially when your stretch is Arkansas, physical game that you lost, Florida, series that it's been, nightmarish as it's been, and then like Alabama, Kentucky. I don't think you want to do those things and continue giving him those 20 carry performances. I think you have to find ways to again, to rotate guys, do what you need to do to give him some fresh, give him moments to catch his breath, to rest his legs. I think the pass game certainly has to pick up. And just like we're asking our offense to relieve our defense, and we're not asking for more from this defense. We're asking for the offense to carry their freaking weight. I don't. Obviously we know in hindsight that like 20 points would have won at Arkansas. I don't think you need much more than that in a home spot, a prime time spot. And a moment ago I said I don't need 55 points. I obviously only want that because of what Florida's done to Tennessee. Realistically, the way that I can handle this based off of how I'm feeling, where Arkansas left us, I don't think Tennessee covers 15, 16 points. I think Tennessee wins this game because all along the offseason, all these, as wrong as we were in spots, the paper trail tells you that Tennessee should win this game. Florida's not done enough to prove consistency. Tennessee's had one bad performance on the road. And look, I'm not excusing the offense from moments against North Carolina State, from most of the Oklahoma game. And obviously the defense was terrific in both those games. And even parts, like we said, the majority of the Arkansas game. But even that's enough for me to say that Tennessee doesn't cover 15, 16 points in a series that's been so blue and orange instead of orange and white. Tennessee should win this game. The paper trail tells me that. All the indicators tell me that. I mean, the way that Florida's been so inconsistent, all the issues and the holes that they have in their roster that we know about, there's no way they should win this game. But I don't think I can do two things. I don't think I can pick Tennessee to win this game and cover. I am picking Tennessee to win this game. The way that I see it playing out is probably like I'm going to say one of those really weird numbered scores, like a 27 or 28 to 12 or maybe 15, where you are bending and not breaking, you are forcing Florida to field goals, or, as Billy's aggression likes to come out, maybe he's going for two in spots and you're just keeping him out on those moments. And I just described like a 12, 13 point win, which is what I think it should be, if not more. But I'm not going to pick Tennessee to cover a 15, 16 point spread coming off of what we're coming off of. If Tennessee had gone, and let's say Tennessee was favored by, I think, like 13 around the time of kickoff in Fayetteville. If Tennessee had covered and even had like that horrible half, but had like just put it on them in the second half, and Arkansas playing from behind and found some scores, but you covered in Fayetteville, I'd be taking Tennessee by like 28 in this spot. That's with Florida beating UCF like they did. That's with Florida beating Mississippi State like they did. Mississippi State is in probably the cellar of the conference right now with the way that Vanderbilt's playing right now. I mean, it's not Vanderbilt right now. It's probably Mississippi State, maybe South Carolina, but I mean, they've already got that Kentucky win that they're riding high on. It's nothing for Mississippi State. And what a terrible, horrible stretch this is for Mississippi State with Georgia this week, Tennessee later down the line, having already lost to Florida big at home. But all those things notwithstanding, if Tennessee had just come close to covering in Fayetteville, I'm probably huge on the Vols in this spot. Even if the offense was still messing around for halves or for games, I'm still huge on Tennessee. There's just enough doubt in my mind where I think you can probably come, 10, 12-point victory here when it should be so much more. I'm still saying that. But it's not going to be me. I'm not going to be the guy that says Tennessee covers coming off of what they're coming off of. They should absolutely win this game. There's no signs that Tennessee should lose this game other than, again, the nightmare fuel, the series being what it has been. There's been whispers of Nico being a fired-up cat this week, and boy, we need to see it. He needs to draw anything he can out of this offensive line. He needs to fire them up. The coach, everybody's not getting a pass. Obviously, the guys need to be fired up. They need to get the taste of that Arkansas performance out of there. They need to do it early. They need to be intense when they do it. All those things that I talked about from the opening kick that I want to see. But again, I think that's your recipe. I think it's getting back to the basics, getting back to the Heupel basics, getting back to your own playbook, doing all those things, I think is your path. And again, I am probably going against my gut a little bit, going against my heart for sure with this series being what it is. I do think the Vols win. I do not think they cover. We've got an over-under of 55.5 that you would have to Threaten me within an inch of my life for me to take the over on that with how these offenses have been, with how these offensive lines have been, with the rotating quarterback situation in Gainesville. All those things, give me that under. Give me that under, and I'll bet my house on it. You know what I mean? Like, that's the way it is. There's no way. I don't see any scenario where this game gets to 56 points and it's the over. So that's where I'm at. Still going through it. Still down and out about that performance, just because it's a letdown from a team that we expect to take steps. And, well, now they got an opportunity to take a big one, because it's a team that you've been losing to over the years, that you're better than, and that you need to absolutely go out and flex on and show that. And that's what it's going to take to make us feel better, to give us confidence entering that Bama game, and to salvage a potential playoff run. That's what it's going to take. That's what I'm calling for. And again,
Pandemonium
as usual, thank you so much for bearing with me as I go through it, for hanging out with us. We appreciate all the love and support you've shown lately. And just again, ask that you go and subscribe, that you hit like, that you share this with your friends, your family. Thank you so much for checking it out. God bless. GBO.
Pandemonium Reigns.